In a 3-month stretch, today's guest bought a house, lost his father inside that house the week he moved in, and then got laid off a week before his first daughter was born. So my question to you is, what does something like that do to a man?
A lot. Um, Lots of changes in perspective on kind of the important things, professional versus personal balance. But then as well, kind of, I think any sort of loss of anything makes you reevaluate what's happened in the past and the process it took to get where you were to then either feel fulfilled or any sort of gratitude for what has or hasn't happened. So it's definitely a quick realigning of priorities and perspectives on lots of things in life.
Aidan Hamman, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
Let's dive in. You had a period of your life, 3 months of your life, you had loss. You bought a home and a future for your family, only to be laid off from your corporate job a few weeks later. So let's kind of dive into that. I want to start, though, by backtracking prior to this 3-month season of your life. What was going on in the life of Aidan Hamman?
Yeah. So I guess I moved to Austin in 2015. Started coaching, and I'd done that for an extended period of time up until about 2020. And in 2020, I decided after I got married in 2019 to kind of make a change. I was kind of going down a route of coaching where my next step was going to require me to likely travel significantly more because I was very, immersed within the coaching world. That my next logical step to get to the higher levels meant I was gone more periods of time. And I had like a coming to with another coach who was significantly more experienced than myself, who said that, to get to those points and those levels, you sacrifice something that's usually your family. And for me, my wife is my best friend, best decision I ever made in my life. And so for me, I made the decision to be home more and spend more time with my wife. So I made a change and got into sales because it was what was required, like what I could get into without having a degree. And things went really well. I mean, they aligned quite well with some of the skills that I developed in coaching. And then from there, I was kind of in the process of going back and forth between a couple different sales companies. COVID hit right when I started. And so I made a change to take care of ourselves and give myself a better opportunity to reach some of our couple goals in terms of buying a house and things like that. And I just found my way back to the company I'd originally started with on better pay, benefits, etc. And so that's what was going on at the time. And then leading up to that, my wife had gotten pregnant, or rather, we decided to have a kid. And we were getting ready to welcome our baby in March at the time. And we had just finally gotten to the point of, we found the house we wanted to put a bid in and all these things. And there were some, as is with buying a home, there's always something that comes up at the end that you kind of
Right.
have to hurdle over last second. And we had just done that and finally gotten the house and we'd moved in and moved everything. And yeah, we were a weekend when said event happened.
Yeah. And so we'll kind of dive into the events that took place in the home. What was just overall, what was your feeling towards purchasing that home? As a father or as a husband, as a future father, kind of what were you feeling in that moment?
I mean, the excitement and pride around it was a very heightened feeling because I think everybody goes through those moments where like you set a goal for yourself to get to a certain point, and life usually doesn't pan out that way. Like like I'm going to do this by 30 or whatever it might be, and it's like 35, best I can do. It's like that's fine. So just the fact that we were able, with even some of the doubts in our own life in general, to get to the point where we got a house that we wanted within a budget that we could do. Yeah, the feeling was tons of excitement. The feeling of setting ourselves up in a home that will last us for a long period of time if we choose to let it, was, yeah, I mean, it's, high fives and back pats the entire time with my wife
Yeah.
and I. So it was great. Super, super proud and I leaned on my dad a lot during those time and got to like, hey, what should I do here? Does this make sense? Is my logic correct here? Um, and so it was when it happened. I know, my stepmom tell all the time, like, yeah, he was really excited for you guys, and so we felt that in our own way as well. So
You kind of foreshadowed what happened, but let's talk about your dad. Um, First of all, what was he like?
uh very calm, very reserved, in the sense of like, uh unless he had a couple of drinks, probably wouldn't be the loudest person there. He'd be very to himself, very big on like not inconveniencing other people for the sake of like your own time. Um, but he just always seemed very, like as a kid, always seemed very measured, in kind of everything he did. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's because like he was the exact opposite growing up. And so he was likely very loud, and he very often made tons of mistakes, errors in life that led him to kind of turn into a different type of person when he became a parent. But he was enjoyable to be around, great to have a drink around. Um, I loved when my friends met him because they're like, wow, he's just, knowledgeable,
Yeah.
very welcoming of all people, would go out his way to help people. And just, for me, he was a lot of what I wanted to be as a person. The way I communicate is very much how my dad did: hands, arms, pauses, etc. So, I mean, from a personal level, yeah, like he was just a very calming presence in my life, and very reliable when I needed something, whether it be advice or anything additional from a parent that you would need. And I'm very grateful for the uh, path that he helped pay for myself and my siblings and even my future children at this point too.
Yeah. That's amazing. He sounds like an amazing guy. Yeah. Seems like a real role model to you as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of want to take it a step further. Say you buy the house, and then within the first week of owning the house, your father passes away.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So my birthday was on February 5th, and my dad passed February 4th. So
Oh my.
yeah, added layer. So we had purchased our house, and we got in on the 29th of January. And so we were moving things in, and my dad had already planned to come down and visit for my birthday. He did that quite regularly and tried to give us all a weekend to ourselves, like did the same for my sister and her kids and my brother. And so we had just moved in, we finished moving things around. We had gone to get stuff for our nursery, like a dresser and like a rocking chair, feeding chair, and crib as well. And we'd gone and done that stuff all day, and come back, and we were cooking at the house. They just wanted to make some homemade ramen because my stepmom is Asian. And we were just having a good time, hanging out at the table, eating, had a couple drinks and telling a couple stories, etc. And then he just kind of fell over in the chair, and he had fell onto my stepmother, and we thought, based on where the story was, thought that he was just kind of messing around. But then pretty quickly I realized, I was like, his eyes are closed. The weight of his body is very heavy, which he probably wouldn't do. But yeah, he passed out. So we just removed him from the chair, and I called 911 immediately. And while I was doing that, my 7-month pregnant wife was giving my father CPR. And yeah, EMTs got there pretty quick. It was within 5 minutes because we weren't too far from the station. And they kind of worked on him for an hour to try and get him back, and he just didn't. So yeah, I was in the front right by. I see it every morning. When I walk out the front door, his head resting close to the door. The way the dining room was all set up at the time, and how everything was moved, and how many people were in my house, trying to save my dad. But yeah, and so he ended up he just went into cardiac arrest. Didn't come back from it.
How old was he?
2023, 60, just turned 62.
So
62,
so
60,
relatively
61.
relatively young.
It was young enough to feel like too soon.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that moment ever doesn't feel too soon for whoever's
Yeah.
involved. So
Yeah. I I first want to just say I'm sorry
I
for
appreciate it.
your loss, and I mean I can't imagine the moment for you being present in his presence and him just falling to the ground like that. That
It's definitely a weird experience in that like I think everyone's immediate reaction is like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, and the initial shock lasted for like days. Because like you just don't know, because no one really teaches you those coping mechanisms, like on how you deal with death when it happens so quickly in front of you. So like there was just times where you know how like you just see something unbelievable and you
yeah.
just kind of throw your arms up like, what the hell was that? It was like that, but it was like for a couple days. And then it started to kind of set in, even harder weeks after. Um, but yeah, it's definitely, I don't wish it upon anyone. I really hope that in an ideal world, everyone's family would just kind of like pass away in their sleep. It's peaceful, so to speak. We think it's peaceful at least. And that you don't have to confront that, because that was a very, it's a massive test in regard to your mental capacity to deal with something like that so quick. So, yeah.
So you mentioned that it kind of got more difficult to process over the course of the next week or two. Can you walk me through kind of what you were feeling in that next week, 2 weeks, and how you have processed, or if you're still undergoing processing?
I do think it's a constant. Um, it's, I mean, I'm sure you guys, since you guys are big in fitness, you get like the backpacking references and the people that do like cross country stuff, and they train by adding more weight to their bags as they go on. I think the type of grief I experience, uh, and I hope it's this easy for everyone to understand and come to terms with. The more weight you add, the easier the carry gets down the road. And so that's kind of what happened. Is when it started, I didn't have like any weight in my bag, and then I slowly started to add more weight, and it wasn't until a certain amount of time that it became easier. So the time scale. So what happened? So I'm the oldest son, and I also probably process emotions very differently than my siblings. Um, they're both very good at connecting with people, and I've kind of keep to myself compared to them, significantly more. And so when everything had happened, I called every family member, and I couldn't process like the sadness and grief. And so instead, what I did was I just notified everyone that needed to be notified. So I spent the next day and a half to 2 days doing that. And then helped organize everything with my brother to get down, because my brother was I think he was in Colorado at the time, and flew him down. And so the first couple of days we're dealing with that, dealing with kind of like there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it and getting everything organized. And then was it my sister or my brother? I think it was my brother and I. Yeah, we drove my stepmother back home. And when we got to the house, that's when it really started to kick in, where you're like, holy shit, he's gone or whatever. And then we just started to organize all of the uh, funeral stuff, notifying everyone. My dad was the associate dean of education at Texas Tech, and he'd kind of filled every single role at one point in his career, because he was just a busybody, like loved working and loved like that. We talk about purpose later, but that was his purpose. Education was his purpose, and helping people. And so it was a big, from what they said, a big loss to the education community there. And so we went and met with them as well in the lead up to the funeral, chatted with the people we worked with closely. Jesse as well, who was the dean there. Jesse was great. Helped us with getting a lot of stuff organized that the university wanted to do for him and things like that. So Um, it was just probably the week period, 3 days in, really started to hit home. And then at that point, I think when you're not used to like crying or being sad or frustrated for such a long period of time, like 3 days is like, that's a lot. There's a lot going on. And so then it changes from like, I just want to get this over with. I just want to get through it. I just want people to know that we're sad and know that we thought our dad was great and all of those things. And you just want to get through it. And so we got through the funeral and everything. And that was a rough day, but we were incredibly grateful. There was a ton of people, like more people than I know. My dad would be furious by how many people came. But it spoke to a lot of like the positivity and the helpfulness and things like that he provided to lots of other people other than his children.
People that he likely didn't even realize he provided.
Yeah. No, I think he just did it out of second nature. So like when we got done having the conversation, specifically with his colleagues that he worked with for a long period of time, we got the gist that like it sounded like our dad was just dad to everybody. Like he just did the same stuff he did with us, with other people. And it was hand around the shoulder. It was you're doing okay. It was don't worry, I'll take care of it kind of thing. And that was just kind of the way he went about things at work too, which is great because for us, my dad was like, I don't speak a lot about his character as a person because I only knew him as dad. I think he was a good person, but he was a stellar father. Stellar. Mm-hmm. And he did all of those things in particular really well. So it makes me really happy that that is the best version of himself he gave to as many people as possible. And I hope that they're in a better position because of it, because I know that's what he would have wanted. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think the amount of people that come to your funeral says a lot about you.
Yeah. A cool way that I choose to measure it is that like people who had limited access to my father still came to this event because they had more access to me through life. So they realize how big of an impact it had, like that he was on myself and my siblings. And they said, you know what, like I should go pay respects to this person.
Again, your father sounds like an amazing guy who's looking down on us from
cool
heaven
dude, man.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure is very proud of the young man you have become as well.
Yeah, I hope that's what we're kind of shooting for. Going in that direction at least. So
awesome. Well, so moving the story along, you purchase the house, you move in, your father passes away a week into home ownership. You're now working tech sales.
Yeah.
Expecting a daughter within the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you get laid off.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that.
Yeah, it was just a random Thursday. And we just kind of got towards the middle of the day. It was it was at like 10 o'clock because it was pretty early because we all went to the bar after naturally. And we just got an email notification. Everyone's joining this all hands. Like, hey, there's going to be layoffs. We've tried to avoid it. There's nothing we can do. If you receive this email, then your position has been made redundant.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact terminology for it.
Yeah, it was like a corporate restructuring and eliminating redundant positions.
But yeah, it was I think there was like 1,300 people laid off or slightly more. It was a big, it was the company's first layoff at the time. I was very fortunate in the sense that like I had already had my paternity leave approved. And so they paid out that as well, while also giving us compensation for how the quarter was going to end. And so since I had done well, I was going to be up for promotion the next quarter. Since I had done well, I got a substantial package to leave. So I was really fortunate in that regard. And like those things, the trauma and grief of losing someone, it always provides perspective in very unexpected ways. And so like I'm losing my job a week before my kid is born, after losing my father, and I just don't care. It's just, it pales in comparison. to the loss I was feeling already from something else.
Yeah, so I think it's very admirable about your story. Just everything that happened, but also the timing of everything that happened. Kind of walk me through what you were feeling as a future father about to have a daughter and just being laid off. Like, was there fear? Was there anger? Was there
I think what I worried about the most was my wife, because I didn't want this to affect her pregnancy in any way because it's obviously stressful for the both of us. But I know she was already worried about how I was dealing with my dad's death. And you get that and couple it with, hey, well, there's this other person that we have to take care of too. And I just knew that she she was worried about my mental space. And so I didn't want her to worry about it. And I remember having the phone calls like, there's nothing we can do. Go about your day. And she already works. She's a veterinarian, so she already works in a fairly stressful field. And and just telling her that like I will be okay. Go about your day. We'll figure it out. We'll just figure it out. It's gonna be fine. Um, I didn't really start to feel the squeeze of it until like 7 months later, 8 months later, because that's when financially things start to become a bit trickier. Because when I got paid out for my leave, it was a 6 month leave. It was a great benefit that they had at the company. And so around that mark is when I started to feel it a bit more. And that was probably around the time where I started to reflect on that day and those things in particular in that moment. And then I got kind of a little sad as things were, the job market in general is always difficult in this country. So,
yeah. So what'd you do next?
spoke to my brother about the situation, who was also concerned, just because of some of the habits I'd picked up in the short term to try and kind of help myself, or what I thought was like helping myself, kind of get through it. And it wasn't like anything like dangerous. I drank, not to like get drunk, but I just started to, you're at the beginning stages of like, hey, you're drinking pretty regularly and it's like 3 or 4 drinks a night. And whether you're getting drunk or not, it's like, this is like, we should probably be careful here. And so he just combined all that with, I kind of let loose that night. And I wasn't as cautious as I've usually been in the past.
So he noticed you were acting differently through drinking alcohol.
I mean, I wouldn't say like my personality didn't change, but it's just like you're just adding something else that maybe I didn't typically do. Like I'm not averse to drinking. Like I like to drink a couple drinks and have a good time. Like I can drink 6 or 7 beers a night in a social setting. But when I wasn't being particularly social, I was drinking at home. And not to the point like I didn't get drunk or it didn't become like a huge problem, but it is a change. And where it mostly saw like impact, like I gained weight. I gained like 15 pounds in, you combine that with having a kid, I gained like 15, 20 pounds in the space of 3 months from all of that. And I'm still working to get it off.
So I want to dive deeper into that if you're willing, because I've experienced that same thing. I was going through just this deep darkness, this deep depression in my life, and I turned to alcohol. And I was drinking a lot, to say the least. And I was also gaining weight. I was, not being the person who I was the first 20 years of my life. And so I just want to, ask you, like, mentally, where were you at? Why did you feel the need to drink that much, that frequently? Because I know I was lost. I didn't know who I was, and that's why I turned to alcohol. So I'm just curious if you felt the same.
I think it's really important to understand that alcohol in general is a good way of enhancing specific feelings. I wanted to be sad. I wanted to sit in the mud, and I wanted to be miserable. And at the same time, how I convinced myself that that was okay was my dad and I drank together. But it was something that I always looked forward to when I saw my dad was I'm going to sit down in my rocking chair on my porch. I'm going to hang out with my dad or on the couch, and we're going to just talk about whatever and have a good conversation. And so in the lead up of the moments and the months and weeks that he passed, I did it regularly to make myself feel like I was still connected with him, I felt. And I would do it because it always brought a soothing feeling to me because it was what me and my dad did. And it was like he was there in that sense. You know, looking back now, I probably should have regulated it a bit better for myself. And I ended up doing so, which was great. But having the conversation with my brother that day and we're like, hey, like, I know we're in a tough spot and I'm not trying to regulate you, but like, are you okay? And I, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm the drinker, not you. And these are things that you're starting to do. Are you good? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, and what do you think your wife thinks about it? Like, what do you think she's feeling? Because she was in, it was something I never really thought about was like being the people on the outside. Who are they when you're struggling? Like, who are they to come and talk to you about it? In moments of weakness or where you feel like it's helping you stay afloat. Imagine being that person to say, hey, like, we need to get this under control. And luckily mine wasn't so awful that I didn't put myself in a super bad spot. But he made me realize that, like, it basically was, which is the same way my dad would have done it. It was like, don't put them in a position where it's going to get weird, where they're going to have to be a bad guy for you. And so within that, things started to obviously change again. But it was, yeah, I think in moments like that, I guess probably the best way to do it if your friends are watching or doing this is like, you gotta sometimes it's like a kid throwing a tantrum. Sorry. A kid throwing a tantrum. Sometimes you just let it play out. Or they're hopping on furniture and you're like, they're going to fall. And sometimes you have to let them fall. Like, did you learn your lesson? And so the hard part is then obviously just finding a way to then have that conversation later down the road. Like, have we learned our lesson yet? Or are we still going? And if they then show resistance to that, we're like, okay, well, this lesson's being taught and I don't think you're seeing it. So I want to provide some perspective. But there definitely it requires a lot of discipline when maybe you're coming home to no one. It's not as apparent that things are going as poorly. And so the best advice I would give to people in that situation is try and surround yourself with people who care about you. Because if they really do, they'll kick you in the ass. And that's what you need.
What would you say is your lowest moment throughout that season of your life?
The lowest moment, the day I went back to work, was probably one of the lowest. Simply because like my commute to work was like 40 minutes. And on those drives, those were usually the times I would call my dad. I wouldn't call him every day. Like, our communication style wasn't that. We call like maybe once a week, once a month, in between there. But it was the first time that, like, subconsciously you get in the car and you're getting ready to go home. It's like, I'll just call my dad real quick. And it was just like, nope. So I cried my whole way home in the car. And then the other day was probably the day my daughter was born. Because I had a preconceived notion. I do this all the time. I'm sure there's lots of people where, like, I have this plan set up in my head where things are going to go this way. And when they work out, it'll all be beautiful. And having a child in particular, like I said, my dad was a great dad, and I was really excited to kind of have that connection with him. And so I was looking forward to getting time with my dad in that moment. And I was hoping at the time that I would have such joy when my daughter was born. And I had joy, but I just couldn't help but feel this overwhelming sadness that I didn't get to share this moment or talk about this moment with my dad. And it made things really difficult. I was obviously super emotional, and I don't like happy cry. And my wife knows that. So there was no way I could play it off that when I'm holding my daughter, I'm crying. And there's no way for me to, like, no, it'll be okay. Like, I'm good. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. And it was rough. And it was rough because I didn't feel like I was giving enough attention to my newborn daughter, who deserved to be loved and cherished and held and smiled at in those moments, even though she couldn't see it. And I felt like I was just worried about what I didn't have versus what I did. And that day in particular was like just a hard day. and just regulating, going from like being very happy to then like just being super duper sad. Um,
Was that like during that day, was it like one moment in particular where, you were happy and then all of a sudden you just felt sadness, or was it kind of sadness building up throughout the day or
no, there was one specific moment I remember, my wife had gone to sleep in the room and I was just holding my daughter like near the window and I was just staring at her and then it like crashed on me. And I was like just rocking her back and forth as she was trying to sleep. And just like, snot, like everything was just coming out. And you're like, I just hope I don't get this on you. Um, and it was just heavy. And I don't really think anyone, like, there's no like emotional regulation courses you take in like high school or in college. Like, you're like, hey, when shit gets really hairy, like, here's how you deal with it. No one teaches you that. And so all I knew to do was just like, just keep running, just keep going. Um, and I, I, I think one of the most profound things that happened in my life was, the day before, my dad passed away. My wife went to sleep and then my stepmom had gone to sleep and me and him were just sitting on the couch at midnight watching South Park, like drinking. I mean, we probably each had 6 or 7 drinks and he had started to get a bit drunk, but I know he wanted to like impart wisdom on
yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I took it for what it was and I did it. I did really enjoy it, but he had said, um, life always has a way of like figuring itself out. Cause I think he knew I was stressed and like with everything that had come. He's like, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try and figure it out first before you let it happen. And so that wisdom, we'll call it drunken wisdom, um, is something I thought about quite regularly. Like, how am I going to pave a way for you to be okay? While also making you figure it out yourself.
When you're holding your daughter in the hospital, thinking about, the thoughts of your father, and him not being there, you referenced you had to just keep moving forward. So what was there a specific moment where things changed, or was it just a mindset that you had to assume in order to move forward and continue in your life raising this new daughter of yours?
The moment of things getting better, I didn't realize it until reflection. And I remember the young lady that lost her sister that was here earlier, which she's a champ, by the way. She's
Michelle,
a freaking champ.
if you haven't plugged for that
Yeah,
episode, if you
she's
haven't seen it,
like, I can't
Michelle
imagine,
Armstrong.
like, losing a parent is awful and your life changes, but a sibling, I don't know what I would do with myself if I lost my siblings. So she's a champ. But what it made me realize was that like I had all the tools around me, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to be able to get through it. In the first week of losing my father, I had 4 friends come over unannounced. They just came to see me. And I don't know if people realize the impact of that, but the validity in terms of the people I choose to surround myself with, that their immediate reaction wasn't, what can I do for you? Can I get you food? They just showed up at my fucking door.
What did that make you feel?
I mean, I broke down. I broke down as soon as I saw him. And I didn't know I thought I was breaking down because of my dad, because I was so sad. I was breaking down because my friends were there to sit with me in the mud or to pick me up. And you combine that with like watching my wife give my dad CPR. I can't explain the, like, obviously the horrific nature of seeing it. It's 7 months pregnant, but then just like, everyone has those times in life where they're like, I made decisions and the decisions are now becoming fruitful in the sense that like I was correct. Like everything I decided and my logic and the conversations I had with these people where I felt aligned with them has been proven right. And that's a huge hell yeah of a win.
Yeah.
Huge win. I've surrounded myself with the kind of people that echo the loyalty and friendship that I would do. And there are fewer things better than it. And when I reflected on all of those things, that the decisions that I've made, that I would be all right, that then I realized that things will get better. And all I need to do is forward, keep going. So massive shout out to my friends. The 4 of them know who they are. They all came over and slummed it with me. I'll never pay off that debt.
Yeah. The power of someone's presence is immaculate. I mean, it's immeasurable.
And it's, do you know Simon Sinek?
I do not.
Dude, Simon Sinek is he talks a lot about like just really it's a lot of workplace based stuff, but like the psychology of friendship and emotional connection through different areas of life. And he spoke about like a true friend. And his terminology is just like, whenever you're in the mud, it ashames me that you wouldn't call me. The sense of just like, hey, you're doing nothing and you're really sad, I'll just come over and do nothing with you.
Yeah.
It is a superbly gratifying thing to have those people in your life. And so to echo Michelle's thoughts, it's like, don't pass the buck with, yeah, call me if you need anything. Just show up. Just show up and be there.
We've talked about what you experienced throughout this 3-month season of your life. I now want to shift into, what did you learn from that season of your life?
Man, there's a lot going on there. I do want to say that I don't think I've learned everything from it. Only because not a ton of time has passed. Like 3 years is a while, but the fruits of that haven't grown yet. Simply because like I haven't come across specific things in life, specifically around like parenting and things like that. As for like professionally, I think what I've always kind of searched for, and in life, I guess as well, like is just deeper meaning. I spoke a little bit about like the validation of some of the decisions I've made in regards to the people I surround myself with, my life partner. I had kind of stumbled upon, we talk about purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kind of poked at in that time period leading up to it, like what I felt my purpose was. Because I think when everyone's growing up, they think it's very self-serving to some extent. Like you naturally think that my purpose in life is to do X, Y, and Z for me. And even if it's for other people, it's for me to do for other people. I had that day when my dad passed and I watched my wife was just the immediate validation for what my purpose in life was to platform my wife. I think my wife is the greatest person in the world. She's incredibly humble, incredibly well-rounded. She's kind. She's a loving mother. She's a fantastic, I can't stress this enough, a fantastic doctor. Fantastic. And she tries to care for people and patients alike, for everything that they're going through in life. And she takes all those things to account. And I just think that she's the greatest person ever. And I want to share her kindness and all those other traits with everybody. That is my purpose in life. That means to help make sure she doesn't get complacent and push her in a direction where she can then understand her worth, because I think she has, like I would say, a moderate to low level of self-worth. She just thinks she is like here. And I'm just like, you're here to change lots of lives. And doing that while also not being forceful and trying to put her in a position where she doesn't want to be. And so my purpose is to push her there and make sure she gets to where she's comfortable, she's valued, she feels valued from internal and external voices. And ultimately that will also set us up on a good path for life, period. And so to the point of, what did I learn about it? That's my purpose in life. And so I've made decisions effectively for my family instead, to make sure I can share the burden with my wife of parenthood. Because parenthood, it's a beautiful thing. It is burdensome. It is tiring. It'll test your patience. Like it does so many mentally exhausting things to you. And so my decision for the work I've done is, rather than chase maybe financial security in a dead sprint. It's take kind of the winding road to get there. Whether that's taking a step down in finances or putting yourself in a position where I'm planting seeds again for something else later down the future or later down the road. And so just what I've learned is just to find a position that will allow you to serve others. Specifically for me, it's my family and my friends. And just pay attention to everything going around you rather than your own just day to day. That was probably the biggest lesson that came, now that we're 3 years out from that. And just, yeah. Sorry, I went on a diatribe there, but
Yeah, no, that was really good. I was thinking in my mind, outside of like my belief that, I'm a Christian, we should spread God's kingdom, to non-believers. You're like the first person who has brought up your purpose being about someone else. And I think that is very admirable. And I think for someone who is struggling to realize their purpose in life, maybe they are focused too much on themselves and trying to find out, what am I personally supposed to do? What is my purpose? Maybe that purpose is for someone else. So I think what you just said is very powerful.
absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize that they get like the gratification they get when they do things for others, because it's, especially in modern days, it's just really hard to be able to do something for others in general, just because life is hard, life is expensive.
It's all me, me, me.
Yeah. And so I think the fulfillment aspect of doing things for other people, for myself in particular, has led me to the current job that I'm in, which will continue to allow me to do that for more people later down the road. But I definitely think if anyone is struggling, like, to have a honest conversation, I think Simon Sinek, again, the other day, he mentioned, like, if you're struggling to find yourself and what you want to do, you should ask your friends, like, hey, why are we friends? Like, and they're naturally, like, when they'll say something like, oh, because of X, Y, and Z. Like, yeah, but why? Tell me why. And usually by the third time you get down the road, they'll tell you what you're good at, from a point of annoyance at that point, but they'll tell you what you're good at. And that's probably something you should look into. It's a good way to learn about it. But yeah, he's super good.
That's good.
I highly recommend Simon Sinek.
Well, you kind of touched on it. I mean, you did touch on it, but it sounds like you found your purpose, through the marriage of your wife.
Mhm.
And she is your entire purpose now in your life. And I assume, you got married, in your 20s or 30s, whenever, not when you're a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So you found your purpose later in life. So you hear about that all the time. Like, people try things, it's unsuccessful. They might try something else, and then it rapidly succeeds. And they identify their purpose in that successful avenue. So just for, some examples, like Jeff Bezos he was the founder of Amazon at the age of 30. Reed Hastings of Netflix, 36. Bernie Marcus, Home Depot, 50. Charles Flint of IBM, 61. So these people didn't find, I would argue, their purpose until those ages when they founded their respective company. And that's what their life is absolutely centered upon now. So I want to ask you, what is your definition of finding who you are in your life?
Oh. Finding who you are in your life. Some people prefer to live lives very differently, and I think that's important. I prefer structure. And, people talk about like life goals and things like that. Like, I have specific goals that I'm aiming for. But I guess the overarching theme, especially when it came to parenthood, the thing that I took from my father and my mother and all the things they've done, is that I want, when I die, I want to make sure that I'm leaving my kids in a better position than when I got them, with the tools they'll need to cope with my passing. That is what I want. And so with that, I go back to the advice my dad gave me and the people you've referenced. Who's to say that had they waited longer, that in 10 years' time, they still would have found ways to found the companies they did. Right? And so I think life's purpose presents itself sooner when you're actively searching for it. And there are signs in life that I think present itself regularly. Like we can talk about, there's so many instances in your life where people are like Bigfoot. This is a great example. How many people think they see Bigfoot because they're looking for it or because they're thinking about it? Like for myself, like music was a great thing for me when I was dealing with my dad's passing, because like I just want signs. Like, are you here? Are you around me? Music. Then it would pop up. In Catholicism in particular, like cardinals, the presence of cardinals in general is the sign of a spirit being close to you, like from a dead family member. And all of those things presented itself. Yeah, but I am actively looking for it. And so I do think there is wisdom in the sense of what my dad said, that life will figure itself out, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try and do it first. If you try and do it first, the likelihood of it presenting itself sooner, I think, increases profoundly. But if you need to sit and be idle and let things come to you because you're tired or whatever, then I think there's a chance that it can still come, but it's just going to take time. So to find your purpose in life, like what is the definition of your purpose? I would say it is something that motivates you to keep going forward. The direction is always forward. It's easier in my situation. I have things that push me forward naturally. Like even like, let's remove my wife. I have my children. I must push forward so that I can leave my children in a better position than when I got them. I must push forward so that way the burden doesn't fall on my siblings when I pass, and that my kids can take care of it. I must push forward because my friends need me in our friend dynamic to be a specific person, and I'm only going to become that person if I continue to move forward. So I think if you search for it, life's purpose will present it. What it is, I think will always surprise people. Like if you were to ask me when I was 18, when I first started dating my wife, like, hey, do you think your purpose will be to make sure this person's as awesome as possible? I'd be like, no, I'm going pro. Like my purpose is me. And so I think you should actively search for it and explore all avenues, especially if you're young. God, if you're young, explore every avenue possible. Take a trip, do all these like just different stuff. So your life purpose is just the train tracks that provide you with a route to get to where you want to go.
Love it.
As far as grief goes, like I think you'll always, it never presents itself in the way you want it to. And it's never a good time to be sad. But I found for myself, which is why I was so eager to do something like this, is like the more you talk about it, like on paper, what happened to me in that period of time is awful. It is incredibly sad. But if I can get through that, I'm not the sharpest person in the world. But if I can do it, other people can too. And I always recommend some of what Michelle said, like sit in the mud with your friends, be there, talk about it. Talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, because that's how you lighten the load. Because I didn't have a lot to talk about in the beginning because I didn't know better. Yeah. But I think that those tools in particular are in tools as in like your friends and conversation, like just talk about it with people. And I think you'd be super surprised how empathetic people become when they've gone through that. Like I find myself commenting, like I found dead dad TikTok. Like I found it, I'm in it. And the amount of times where like you see like my dad just passed and things like that, and my immediate reaction is just like, you're crushing.
Yeah.
You can do it, forward. And I've commented on videos like that because people, like that experience, it bonds people in a very different way. And so I think the more you can share that empathy with people and your experiences and knowledge, I think it sets people up for success. And at the end of the day, I only want to see people do well. That's it. So talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, and then talk about it some more. And when you cry, keep talking about it. Because eventually the jar with what is your grief gets larger and the grief stays the same size. I do want to do, there's another shameless plug. There's a conversation I had with a guy who's a good friend. I played college soccer with his brother. And we played men's league out here. I know you know this person very well. But his dad had passed what was, I think, a year before mine. And we were walking off the field after playing. This was probably like 2 weeks after my dad passed.
Yeah.
And I asked him, because he just asked, like, are you okay? He's like, here we are. I just asked him, it's like, does it get easier? And he said, no, it doesn't. But you learn to deal with it being there. And I was like, thank you. Everyone else lied, as you would. Like, I don't want to make it hard. But he was just, no. And I could see it. It had been a year or 2 years since his dad passed, and him thinking about it, he almost cried in front of me. And he's a very big, muscular, strong-hearted man. And I was like, okay. So I started to realize, like, this is just going to be here. So you just got to keep going forward. My dad always used to whistle. He'd be like, we're out. And we go. Like, out the door. Let's go. And that's, I think of it every time I get sad. I'm like, all right, be sad. And then go.
Yeah.
That's all you do.
Well, I hope you know you're not alone. I know you know you're not alone. People have gone through this, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is for people like you who have experienced something so just horrendous. I mean, so you can't even describe the emotions that go into it. But someone hearing your story and what you turn to, the people in your life, the relationships you have, that's the whole purpose of this podcast. And so whoever is out there who might have lost their father, who might have been unexpectedly laid off prior to just giving birth to their first daughter, listen to Aidan's story, and I really hope that you are encouraged from it.
It gets easier. Yeah, everything gets easier.
Aidan, you have an encouraging story.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys doing this stuff too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm exposed to it and have an opportunity to share with you as well. Like, it is good work, and it will help people. It will help people 100%. I'm sure every person who's been here before me has left and felt better about what they've said.
Yeah.
So,
awesome,
man.
Well, thanks for being on the Real Life Podcast.